based on the success of the US and Israeli military strikes. Iran is much further away today from a nuclear weapon than they were before the president took bold action to fulfill his promise to the American people. And that promise was Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
Well, you just heard from the Pentagon's chief spokesman. His name is Parnell. And well, he's got an interesting assessment of the damage that the United States was able to carry out against Iran's nuclear facilities. He states that Trump has kept Iran from ever making nuclear weapons. But when pressed for specifics later in a press briefing, Parnell had an interesting answer. Let's take a look.
Have you had time now to do a deeper assessment of the damage to the nuclear facilities, and have there been any sort of like air patrols or anything like that to gather additional information?
So I'll answer your second question first. Our assessment of the battle damage around Fordo, Nantes, and Isfahan remains unchanged. I mean, we believe, and certainly all of the intelligence that we've seen have led us to believe that those facilities especially have been completely obliterated. And the interesting kind of side point about this, Tara, is that all of the conversations that we've had since Operation Midnight Hammer with our allies all around the world, but certainly also in the region, they say a couple of things. They share our sentiments about the degradation of Iran's nuclear program and the fact that we have degraded their program by 1 to 2 years. At least intel assessments inside the department assess that, and I think their intelligence shares that conclusion.
Just current assessments by this department think it's been degraded or delayed by 1 to 2 years?
I think we're thinking probably closer to 2 years, like degraded their program by 2 years.
Look, I don't care. I'm going to just come out and say it. The country that's making a big deal about Iran enriching uranium is carrying out a genocide in Gaza. They have nuclear weapons. They started a clandestine nuclear program in like the 60s, are not part of the non-proliferation treaty. I'm more concerned about the rogue state of Israel at this moment. But nonetheless, let's keep playing this game about how Iran is the real threat here. Let's go to the next video where essentially Parnell reiterated that Iran's ability to build a bomb is degraded, but not completely obliterated. Let's watch.
We believe that sending bombers from Missouri, 37 hours on a mission, not a single shot fired at them, took a very strong psychological toll on Iranian leadership. We also believe that the degradation of the facilities at Fordo, Isfahan, and Nantes degraded their physical capability of constructing a bomb. And it's not just enriched uranium or centrifuges or things like that. We destroyed the components that they would need to build a bomb. And so when you take that constellation of different things into consideration, yeah, we believe that Iran's nuclear capability has been severely degraded, perhaps even their ambition to build a bomb. I mean, ultimately the president has said he's not going to allow them to build a bomb. The Israelis are not going to allow them to have a bomb, and they know that.
Okay, so let me explain to you what's going on. Everyone who is talking about how either the nuclear capacity in Iran has been obliterated or hasn't been harmed at all, everyone's full of crap. No one knows. No one knows. You want to know why? Because you literally need inspectors to be there on the ground to assess the damage that's been done. Now, here's the issue. Iran, who had been allowing international inspectors into their country, are no longer playing ball. Because guess what? What's the point of pursuing diplomatic means when the United States is going to bomb you anyway? So the only way in preventing Iran from building nuclear weapons was the diplomatic agreement that was reached between the United States, Iran, Russia, European countries in the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal that prevented them from building nuclear weapons. We had inspectors going in to ensure that that was the case. But Israel isn't concerned about Iran's nuclear weapons. Israel wants regime change war in Iran. That's what this is really about. So at this point, knowing the reality of the situation, Hearing the incessant questions from reporters about the nuclear capability of Iran makes me want to pull my hair out, because it's not about the nuclear weapons, you idiots. It's about the fact that Israel wants to drag us into a war with Iran to do regime change, as they did with Libya, as they did with Iraq. By the way, those two cases didn't work out so well for Israel, did it? Or the United States, more importantly. So why don't we stop pretending? Let's stop with the theater. Let's stop with the facade. The only thing that's, I guess, a little bit of a silver lining in the story is the fact that the Trump administration clearly really does not want to go to war with Iran. And that's a good thing. Let's keep it that way and get to pushing, okay? Because I'm not really interested in continuing to support this genocide by a rogue state that has nuclear weapons without acknowledging them or entering the non-proliferation treaty. End of story. That's what this story is really about.
Yeah, so the so-called 60-day ceasefire in Gaza is nonsense. The ceasefire between Iran and Israel is nonsense. I'm gonna explain why. They don't really exist. They're a figment of Donald Trump's imagination. I wish they did exist. I hope he could get him to do it, but I'm gonna explain why they can't in a second. I'm gonna disagree with Anna on a couple of quick things in a sec as well. First though, on TYT, we're asking you, in essence, the same thing that Anna's asking you there. If Iran's uranium enrichment program is not fully destroyed, do you even want to know? A, yes for national security, and it's always better to know. Or B, no, it'll just be used as an excuse to attack Iran again, right?
Yep.
And so, by the way, no is winning by 77%. So anyways.
It's the right audience.
Yeah, well, we do have the smartest audience in the world. Oh, they just started voting, okay. So, guys, now let me explain a couple things. First of all, a slight correction on Anna. You said you'd need on-the-ground inspectors. No, you need inspectors to go under the ground. They'd have to go way, way, way underground to see how much it's damaged. Obviously, that's impossible, so everyone is guessing. Totally, utterly guessing, okay? Number two, you said Libya and Iraq didn't really work out for Israel. They actually kind of did. They didn't work out for Libya or Iraq or the Middle East or the world or America, right? But Israel's goal there was not democracy in Iraq or Libya. Israel's goal was to make sure that no one could oppose them as they took more Palestinian land. And Saddam Hussein used to sometimes fund Palestinian defense, and Gaddafi would sometimes fund Palestinian defense. Now they're both dead. Their countries are in much worse shape, in massive civil war in Libya. Slavery's made a comeback in Libya, okay? And so, but Israel's very happy. They're like, oh, you have slavery, civil war, massive death, both to American soldiers. You cost you $8 trillion, this global war on terror. Yes, but they're not funding defense of Palestinians anymore. And what was Iran doing? They were funding Hamas and Hezbollah. You can call them terrorists, then they are, right? Israel is also obviously a much bigger terrorist. They not only have killed 57,000 people, 30,000 at least women and children. If Hamas had killed 30,000 women and children, Israel probably would have killed every Palestinian alive, okay?
I mean, they're gonna do that anyway, but go ahead.
So, I mean, they're only doing a genocide for now, not a Holocaust. So, and they brag about that. They're like, well, we didn't kill them all. We could have killed them all, but we haven't killed them all yet. Well, you must be so proud. And by the way, that is the difference between a genocide and a Holocaust. A Holocaust is when you try to kill them all. And so, okay, but for now it's just a genocide. So now in Iran, the reason why the ceasefire is nonsense and we're gonna, at least Iran and Israel are gonna head back to war is because number one, what Anna read you was Iran is saying, no, we're gonna enrich uranium. No way, no way. You guys wanna bomb us and tell us that the peace negotiations was just a front and it was a cute trick and then you murdered our lead negotiator? And then you told us, oh yeah, here, we're gonna give you 2 weeks to get back to the peace table. And then you dropped bunker busters on us while we were going back to the peace table. So no, America and Israel are warmongers. They're not interested in peace at all. All they ever do is murder our politicians, murder our scientists, drop bombs on our civilians. Israel's killed over 300 civilians in Tehran, in our capital city. You think we're gonna trust you? No, we're gonna go right back to enriching uranium. And you, what are you gonna do? All right, come and get us. So
okay, but let me interrupt. Sorry. I really wish that wasn't the case because I don't want to go to war with Iran. And when they talk like that, that gives in the minds of government officials in the United States, certainly Israel. I mean, they want to go to war with Iran. Well, let me correct that. They want the United States to go to war with Iran on their behalf so badly. So anything they can latch onto, they will latch onto as justification for that war. Look, at this point, I'm going to be honest with you guys, okay? At this point, the way that I predict the future is the only way to prevent the United States from getting dragged into a war with Iran is if they do develop a nuclear weapon.
No, there's another way.
What's the other way, Cenk?
Okay, so and this is going to be the most important decision of Trump's administration.
Oh, we're cooked. We're totally cooked.
Yeah, we might be. We probably are. But let me explain what's going to happen next. So since Iran is back to enriching uranium, that's the lesser of the problems, but it's a problem, right? In Israel, they want complete subjugation of the entire Middle East so that no one can fight back when they take more Arab land, okay? And so they want to end the Iranian regime, period, because the Iranian regime has funded Hamas and Hezbollah, which again, you can call them terrorists, you can say, I mean, they're the people fighting back in a terrible way, but in some way to try to help the Palestinians. So I don't agree with their actions, but it's some defense of Palestinians, and the Israelis think that defending Palestinians is the worst thing in the world. Anyone who would defend a Palestinian is called a terrorist. When the Palestinians actually went to try to go to the UN like Israel did to do it diplomatically, can we get a nation too? You know what Israel called them? Terrorists. Because anyone who would defend Palestinians in any way, shape, or form has been relabeled in the West as terrorists, and they must be murdered because they're the bad guys, right? And what have they done? They've subjugated Palestinians for 58 years, 5.5 million Palestinians in the occupied territories. They've taken more of the West Bank. Now they're saying that they're going to take Gaza. They're in southern Lebanon, western Syria, etc. So my point is, Israel's never going to rest until they murder the leaders of Iran, who in their mind are trying to help Palestinians, right? Until the entire Middle East is subjugated and says, yes, Israel, we serve you, right? By the way, you might be surprised. I met an Arab American the other day, and he said he's lived in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. And if you speak out against Israel in those countries, their secret police come and get you because their governments are working with Israel. So they want complete subjugation of the Middle East. But they're not gonna get that because that's too freaking hard. It's too big, too many people, too many countries. So Israel's gonna go and try to destroy Iran, especially if they're enriching uranium. And then Trump's got a decision to make. Is he gonna say, yes, regime change, yes, boots on the ground, and then he will become the most despised president in American history. And yes, he will lose a giant chunk of his voters. And yes, they will be furious with him if he puts one boot on the ground in Iran. You could not believe me now, it's okay, and I hope we never find out, right? But that's for sure. On the other hand, if he says Israel starts bombing Iran and Trump, and because Trump's a wild card, you never know. If he says to them, hey, I told you not to bomb them, and there was a fake ceasefire, but I want a ceasefire, and I meant it. And even though the terms don't make any sense, and you guys didn't actually come to an agreement, but I declared it. So if you're bombing them, I'm out. America's out, you're on your own, Israel. Then he would become the most popular president, no matter what else he did, and they would build statues of him. I'm being honest, and he would win a Nobel Peace Prize. But he's very unlikely to do that, because at the end of the day, AIPAC and the Adelsons will come along, and Trump will go, oh, money, money, is my guess. But hey, it's his choice, not our choice. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.